For some, this is reality, and it's getting worse. Most people are not paying attention, and if they were, they would see the physical predicament has three parts: existing stratification of well being, diminishing deliveries of goods and services, and civilization collapsing conflict. Let me focus on stratification of well being. The green area is the distribution of well being of the Earth's population. The average European lives here. 99% of the people on Earth live less well. They live harsher, shorter lives. 66% live so far below this well being they are physically and mentally stunted. 7 billion people suffer injuries relative to Europeans. To stop these injuries, each would have to rise to this level. The Earth's deliveries would have to increase 14 times. If the Earth cannot produce any more, today's goods and services will support only 500 million at European standards. Next, consider the meaning of diminishing goods and services as part of the predicament. This century, deliveries of goods and services will diminish because of soil loss, fossil reservoir exhaustion, resources harvested above their renewing rates, and climate disruption. At the end of this century, the reduced deliveries will support only 50 million people at European standards. Finally, consider conflict's role in the human predicament. Social conflict arises when the rich, purchasing their wants, raise prices. Food is taken from the poor. People fight to eat. The conflict consumes already scarce goods and services, which increases scarcity, which increases conflict, which increases scarcity. This circular chain of events collapses global civilization. With collapse, we lose the goods and services provided by economies of scale, protection of trade routes, and specialization of labor. At the end of this century, Earth's deliveries may support only small, scattered, low-tech tribes. Are there other possible futures for our children? Are there civilization designs that are equitable, peaceful, preserve the natural environment, and dependent only on renewing or recycled resources? I have identified 3 electrical grids powered by hydroelectric dams, which produce enough power to maintain themselves for 500 years and support 3 small, self-contained civilizations totaling 50 million people. In my design, each has constant population, constant footprint, high technology, and advancing arts and sciences. Also, because of energy limits, each recycles rather than mines new resources. Each uses natural soil maintenance rather than synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, and each limits where it distributes energy. Too wide an area will dilute energy-intensive services like healthcare, transportation, and education. Because there is no energy distribution outside of the cities, no one lives in these areas. They return to their natural wilderness states. Eco-sustainability, formerly a victim of too much energy, is now a byproduct of limitations in energy distribution. The well-being level within these cities, by my rough calculations, suggests each person could have postgraduate education, European health care, housing, job, symphony tickets, ability to launch kids, and an electrical transportation system. Cars, roads, and airplanes would be mostly absent. Thus far, I have presented the physical aspects of the human predicament and a design where the energy budget balances. Now consider that the human predicament also has social aspects. That is, existing personal behavior prevents the transition to this design or its maintenance if it ever existed. However, different personal behavior could make it possible. Different procreative behavior, different hierarchical behavior, and different ownership behavior. True, for most of life on Earth, these behavior have been under the strict control of genetic predisposition. However, during the last million years, social thinking developed and partially modified the gene's stranglehold on the individual's behavior. It infiltrated culture, allowing codes to modify genetic behavior. It infused institutions, allowing law to change behavior, and it permeated our media, shaping our habits. It appears behavior is no longer chained lockstep to our genetics. Most recently, cognition began using abstraction instead of experience to shape individuals' behavior. And groups of these more abstract thinkers began influencing first our culture, and then our institutions, and finally our media. The process of unchaining our behavior from genetics and culture continues. Eventually, human nature will be described differently. However, in the meantime, physical and social conditions are bad. Some predictions include civilization collapse with our remnants reduced to subsistence. There is a path forward that avoids the worst and keeps the best. However, it requires a much smaller population and behavior more fully disconnected from our genetic predispositions and its cultural shadows. To obtain a better future, we need a fast way to change everyone's behavior. Let me propose a 3-step process. 1. We figure out how to help one person know it's these new behavior or their children will be injured. 2. This person becomes an activist, creating another person who can see the benefits of the new behavior. 3. These individuals eventually create a groundswell strong enough to push institutions to create laws that coerce everyone, including a disagreeing minority, to take the new behavior. What has been proposed in this video is that a view of reality could change humankind's course, but only if 3 billion people held it. That is, 3 billion people knew who will be injured on our present course, which behaviors create these injuries, and which behaviors prevent them. 3 billion people give injuries that happen to people in the future a value that is larger than the price paid today to avoid them. 3 billion understand how civilization can prevent injury, and 3 billion believe a transition path exists. That is, humankind can create new dominant beliefs about reality. Then these beliefs can create new laws. These laws can create new universal behavior. And these behavior can create a non-injury producing civilization. Obtaining new law requires a 3 billion person constituency that believes in physical reality and has a willingness to vote for it. Creating this constituency requires successfully describing reality to one individual, something akin to explaining to a person who thinks the earth is flat that it is round. The facts are on your side, but current beliefs are not. It requires that the transformation be completed in a month, that the converted person be motivated and able to bring another person to reality in the following month? That the third month sees 4 transformations, and these doublings continue for 32 months. Building the constituency is impossible unless each one-on-one conversation produces a person that sees reality, spreads reality, and votes for the new law. We don't have all the required content and process of successful conversations. It's hard to explain overshoot injuries in terms of overpopulation, resource depletion, increasing inequity, eco damage, and limited cognition. Most of us can explain to almost anyone why this space station is full at a crew of 6, and almost none of us can explain why an out-of-gas world is full at a crew of 50 million. It's easy to show in this interval population has gone up, resource access has come down. And even though the 1972 limits to growth model correctly predicted these curves, we still haven't been able to use it to help people believe billions will starve to death this century. Each of us trying to communicate this view has experienced some success and some failure. The goal of this group is to share this knowledge and make it available to those holding these conversations. The question is, do you want to be a member of this group?